What's up, Troy? What's up? What's up, Dra Barber? How's it going, you guys? This is only going to be a very short little stream. I need to get some food in it shortly. So this is only going to be a very short little stream, just to show you guys rewinding an output inductor. Rewinding an output inductor. Now this is my least favourite thing to do on a car audio amplifier repair. My absolute least favourite thing to do. So you can see here that we have an inductor. So this is the one of the coils that's on the amplifier board. Now this is the inductor that filters out the high frequency switching class D waves from the speaker output, so that your subwoofers don't have to filter out this wave, and the coil does it for you. The problem is that these things, especially on cheap amplifiers, aren't seated to the board very well. And so what happens is when you mount your box anywhere that vibrates, anywhere where there's some considerable vibration, then these things can shake about, and they rub their legs and their leads against each other, and they actually short the legs out against each other. And so rather than having an inductor, you end up with just a short circuit, which is no good at all. That's no good at all. And so that causes the output section to heat up, and then you can blow the output section, and you can blow the power supply. So lots of issues with the amplifier can come from purely this output inductor being shorted, or being bad, or having snapped legs or something like that. Now when you rewind them like this, you can never get it as good as they did in the factory. It's very annoying. So you can never get it quite as good as they did in the factory. So I wonder if anyone has any tips for me when it comes to rewinding these, so I can actually get most of this wire through without having to sacrifice too much of it. Because at the moment I'm probably going to have to sacrifice some of this wire, because I don't think I'm going to get it all back through the hole, because we're already getting a bit small in the middle here. Jababa says least favourite thing to do here is cleaning old thermal paste on a PA amp. Oh man, yeah, thermal paste for me gets absolutely everywhere. Like, I will leave the workshop in the evening and it's all over my face, it's all over on my head. Thermal paste gets absolutely everywhere. I can't check out that amp right now because I'm busy rewinding a output inductor. You never know, guys. We might just be able to get all these winds back through. Just maybe get all these winds back through. I think we got one, maybe possibly two more winds to get in there. Hello from Pakistan. How's it going? Good to have you on board. Thanks for joining in the live stream. Okay, so I don't think we're going to get this last one through, and even if we do, we're not going to have enough left. So this inductor originally had, I can't remember however many winds it was, so we're left now. Now I've rewound it up, because I can never rewind it as tightly as they do in the factory. I think they use a machine, so that's kind of annoying, but it doesn't really matter. All this has got to do is it's got to filter the output switch waves, so one wind less isn't going to make a considerable difference to how this amplifier operates. Yeah, there's no chance, I don't think there's any chance of me getting that round there and through while having enough left to solder. Nah, no, I'm not even going to bother trying. So what we're going to do in that case is we're going to cut it off a little bit short, so we're going to lose one of the winds, which isn't a problem. Amplifier will still work perfectly fine. What was wrong with the coil? Yes, this coil has obviously insulation on the wire itself, and the insulation had rubbed against itself and rubbed a short circuit onto the coil, which was causing this thing to short and not work properly. So I'm just going to twist these wires to get them nicely together, and then we're going to cut them off. We need to sand them down. So if we cut off about there, that should be enough to solder through. What's up, Matt? How's it going? How was your Pizza Hut? So now we just take our sandpaper, and we just need to sand off, scratch off all the insulation on this copper wire so that we can solder to it. Because at the moment, if we try and solder to this wire at the moment, the solder won't stick to it because it's insulated. Pizza Hut was peng, as was the cereal I had after. You had cereal after your Pizza Hut. Matt, you are a strange man, but I like it. So now I've scratched off the insulation here. I'm just going to untwist these a little bit so I can get to the insulation on each one of these little bits of wire. I want to scratch off as much insulation as possible so that this solders nicely to the board. So we're going to go around each single little wire, each single little bit of wire, and scratch off. Hey Martinez, how's it going? Good to see you. This is only going to be a short little stream this time. Short baby little stream. None of this 7-hour bullshit that we did last night. Last night was long, but we did get quite a bit of stuff done last night, so that's all good. Hello Henrik, how's it going? How's your Wednesday evening? It is Wednesday, or is it? No, it's Thursday today. Jesus. It's not even Wednesday today. I lose track of the days very, very easily, and I'm very hungry just now. I am very hungry. Is anybody else hungry? Is anybody else feeling peckish right now? I could go for a snack. I could go for a burrito. I could definitely go for a burrito. Short stream, finally, yeah. What do you think about Sony Explode amps? I don't think they're as bad as people make them out. For sure, Sony Explode gear is actually not too bad at all. The problem with the Sony Explode gear is it has a bad astigmatism attached to it because the majority of the people who used it didn't have a clue what they were doing, and so none of it ever really sounded any good. But the Sony Explode gear actually is not too bad at all, as long as you know what you're doing with it. It's quite well made. The subs are relatively well made for their price that you can get them for. The amplifiers actually do rated power, or slightly higher than rated power, and they sound nice. Yeah, nothing wrong with Sony Explode gear at all if you're on a budget. It just has a stigmatism associated with it because people did not know how to use it most of the time. Because it's cheap, people buy it who are just beginners, just starting out, and so they don't use it properly, and therefore it doesn't sound any good. Which gives the brand of the kit a false bad name. So I think that's just about enough sanding there of the insulation. So we're going to retwist these together so that they go through the little hole on the board nicely. Now let's try and get this back on the board. Might sit at a funny angle, but I don't care too much for that. Need to get rid of some. There's some excess solder on this one, which is preventing it from going in the hole. So let me just try and get rid of some of that. Scratch some of that solder off there. Everyone thinks it's crap and then they sell it cheap. Yes, it is a vicious cycle. Cheap gear. People buy it who are just starting out, don't have a clue. Run it, sounds shit. They think it's shit. They sell it for cheap because they think it's shit. Someone else buys it because it's cheap, that doesn't know what they're doing. Runs it, sounds shit. It's a vicious cycle. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to solder this first one down, and we're going to play with our new one that we just fitted. Solder this temporarily, just to hold it in place while I fiddle about with this. Oops, damn it, I thought that was done then. Come on, through you go. I was going to get some fresh solder on that. Stupid question maybe, but did you use new copper wire? No, I didn't. I didn't bother using new copper wire because I found the short on the inductor, which was very. It wasn't that near to the end, so I rewound it back a bit and found the short, isolated the short. This is a very cheap amplifier, so it wouldn't really be worth me buying a ton load of new copper wire and charging the customer for quite an expensive repair. So I just wound back a little bit of the copper, found the short, and then isolated the short and rewound it together, and we'll be good to go. These are only cheap amplifiers. Really, it's not worth me doing this, but I felt bad for the customer in this case. This amplifier is an absolute mess. I don't know if you can see what else is going on with this amplifier. The amp actually works, it's just the inductor. Believe it or not, this amp actually works fine, it's just the inductor was shorted. It was causing the output section to overheat. Of all the amps in the workshop, the one that works fine is this one, and I would not have guessed that. Speaking of wiring, a 4 ohm stable bridge mono amp can most handle a 2 ohm load? No. Especially at Class AB, it will overheat. If you upgraded the heatsink, then maybe. But most of those, most of the sort of 4-channel or 2-channel amplifiers that say 4 ohm bridge, 2 ohm per channel, if you try and run it at 2 ohm bridge, the majority of them will just get too hot, and they'll cut out from thermal protect every sort of 10 minutes, and it just gets really annoying to try and run the amp. What amp is he working on? I am working on a base face DB 1.3, which is quite similar to the SPL Dynamics D1500 or 1500D, SPL Dynamics ICE 1500D, very similar amplifier to that. Okay, as you can see here, we're missing a bit of the insulation. We didn't obviously get hit by the sandpaper, so I'm just going to zoom in here. So a small bit of the insulation there didn't get hit by the sandpaper enough because solder is not taking to it. So we need to scratch that off. So I can use my Stanley knife here actually. I can scratch off the insulation using the knife. I saw another amp repair guy on YouTube. He used some sort of gel while soldering. The gel is called solder flux. It's very useful stuff if it's not conductive, but mine seems to be conductive, which is not useful at all. So I need to get some more of that stuff. Oh man, I'm so hungry. My solder actually has that flux inside it. When you solder, there's flux in the core of this. Most decent solder has that. Okay, let's see if we found the short and if we fixed the issue. I'm going to need to dump some CA glue on this after, because you see how wobbly this is now. So see how wobbly that is? That's no good. We can't leave that like that. That's just going to snap off with vibration. I don't know what I'm having for dinner actually. I can't remember. I've got something in. Right, so let's power her up and see whether rewinding this inductor has fixed the issue. So the amplifier worked fine, it came on and appeared to work fine, so I was thinking to myself, what's the issue? And so when the amplifier came in to the workbench here, I had it turned on and I was probing things and I was wiggling around all the inductors and transformers, and when I touched this one, the output section went and it started to heat up and it was going to short out. So I was like, whoa, okay. So yeah, we took the I found the short circuit on the inductor, so we desoldered that. I unwound it until I found the short, isolated the short, and I rewound it back up and soldered it back in. FI IB3s are fantastic woofers, they're wonderful. What's the difference between a ported box or non-ported box? There's plenty of explanations on that on Google, and it's too long for me to explain just now while I'm repairing this. So sorry. Plenty of information on Google as to the difference between a ported and sealed box. I don't need to explain that. This camera is overexposed. Who thinks this camera is a little bit overexposed? I'm going to try and sort that out. That's starting to look a little bit better, isn't it? That's a bit better. Okay. So you should, yeah, because before you couldn't see the red light, the red LED, whereas now you can see the red LED here. See the red LED? It comes on when I hit the remote. So, okay, let's see. Do we have a switching wave on the output? Yeesh. Well, that looks even worse than before. That looks even worse than before. Wow, that looks even worse than before. So maybe we isolated one short and created another. Ah, no, hang on. I think the actual issue isn't... I think we've got more than one issue here, guys. I think we've got more than one issue here. I think that, obviously... So I did find a short on the inductor. So I've rewound that. But I think that there's actually a dodgy connection on one of these. Look, when I touch this, it's all over the place. Okay, well, let's resolder that then. I think there's a dodgy solder connection on one of these, perhaps. Does not look like it though. Very strange. I'm going to refresh the solder on all of the output FETs. See if the issue goes away. Very interesting. what are your thoughts on home-powered subwoofer amp boards compared to car audio amplifiers? The home stuff is usually a lot better quality, especially if you buy a proper home theatre brand or like a PA brand or something. It's usually a lot better than car audio. This is going to be a short stream. We're only 20 minutes in. I imagine we'll be finished with this stream within half an hour. I reckon this stream will be a half an hour long, maybe 40 minutes. I've got my dinner in a minute anyway, so can't be too long. Can't be too long. I'm so hungry. I have the old school JBL GTS 150 that has unfortunately shorted a power input. Damn, that's not what you want. I was going to reflow all these solder connections because when I wiggled one of the FETs, the issue seemed to get worse. Get out of here, solder bridge. Get out of here. Get out of here. Don't make me suck you. Don't make me suck you. There we go. Being too generous with my solder. Gomez says, love your videos. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much. I love your attendance. I love your viewership and your support. Refresh all these stanky looking solder connections. Has anybody else seen the terrible damage on this board that I haven't addressed yet? Can anybody see the great big gaping hole in the board? No, the scope's in the way, so of course you can't see it. Where is our zooming camera? Yeah, boys, look at that. Great big hole in the board. And because this seemed to have an issue when we wiggled one of the FETs, I'm going to solder these from the top of the board as well in case any of the vias have been damaged. Lewis Lute says that must be my amp. Yes, my friend, I think this is your amplifier. This is the orange bass phase DB 1.3. And this amplifier. So Lewis, I don't know if you was following us from the start, but I found a short circuit on the. I found a shorted inductor, so I've taken that off and I've rewound it. Rewound it up, and I thought that would fix it, but the issue was actually worse after I put it back in. So I think we also have a poor solder connection on one of these FETs over here, and this is just due to vibration damage. That's purely what that is. Lewis, is that really your amp? Yes, this is Lewis's amp, yes. Yes, indeed, this is Lewis's amp. This is Lewis's janky ass bodged up amplifier. I don't think he knew how bad it was when he bought it, which is very annoying because I told the old customer, who this used to belong to, I've repaired this, but really it should have been a write-off. When you sell it, make sure you let the customer, the new buyer, know the condition of this amplifier. But I don't think that was done. So we've refreshed all the solder on these pads. Let's see whether that has fixed anything or not. How many years have you been doing this? 1 year. Roughly a year. Okay, so let's see now. Has that resolved our issue? Let's get rid of all that solder. That solder on the bench is not good. One like equals one prayer. One prater? That sounds like a crisp. Is it safe to mount your amp on a subwoofer box? No, it's not. The amplifier will die eventually, whether it's in 1 month, 1 year, or 10 years. Eventually, it will die from being on the box. Just depends how lucky you are. One like equals one prayer. Oh man. Okay, now we have... what? Now we must have a solder bridge somewhere. I thought oh yes, we have a very obvious solder bridge that I haven't seen. So this is what happens when you try and work on amplifiers when you're hungry. Ow! Jesus Christ. Again, this is what happens when you try and work on amplifiers when you're hungry as fuck. You short out the rectifiers, which is fine, because the rectifiers are just off the capacitors. So we just shorted out the rail capacitors on my thingy here. So don't do what I do. Don't keep metal things on your bench or the amplifier exposed and push it backwards and short out the rectifiers on your chisel, because that's not going to end well. So let's sort out that solder bridge there. Small solder. This stream's not going well, is it? This stream is not going well. So there's our solder bridge that I didn't spot just now because I'm hungry AF. No pressure, Sam. Yeah, when you've got the customer watching you on live stream, that's no pressure. These amplifiers are so easy to repair though, there's no issues. If anything went tits up with this amplifier from the customer, or if somebody made a mistake in the workshop, these amplifiers are very easy to repair. Even if the amplifier seems to be completely obliterated, you can still make these things work. Ah, man. I need food and a beer. Yeah, man, I repair much better when I have beers. When I had a few beers on live stream and I was repairing amplifiers, we repaired 3 things in one session. Repaired 3 amps in 1 session, didn't we? That was a nice little repair session. This amplifier benches just under 2000 watts RMS. Yep, that's a legitimate bench test. What's the most expensive amp you've ever worked on? I would say it's probably the Ground Zero 10K HC, the high current one. If you Google and look up how much the Ground Zero 10K HC, it's a big platinum chrome one with the chrome case. One shorted FET, yes, well spotted. That's my bad. We've got tons and tons of these FETs though, so no worries. You're not human if you don't make mistakes. Yeah, the Ground Zero 10K HC is the most expensive amplifier I think that I've ever worked on. Or perhaps the Sundown NS1. Maybe the Sundown NS1. €4,000. That must be the Ground Zero. Is that the one that's €4,000? The Ground Zero. B9P0. B9P0 batch. Do I have any spares of those? Lewis says this is my only amp. Oops, that's my 9640 drawer. Bought it, played it for 40 minutes and kaput. Yeah, the amplifier wasn't really that kaput. It just had a shorted output coil, which is very unfortunate because the previous customer that that should have happened to. So it's very unfortunate that it just happens to happen to you, Lewis. Looking for some FETs which are the same batch as these. So these are 640Ns and they are batch P19D. P19D. I should have some of those because I have had loads of those in the past. P19D, there's one. Just looking for another P19D, P619D. And there's one, although that looks like it has different markings on it, so I don't trust that one. Looks like it's a different font. P19D, there we go. These ones should be fine. We're going to test them in our transistor tester first, just to make sure. Other hobbies you got, Sam? I used to love playing music. I can play the guitar, the keyboard, I can play the drums, saxophone. Yep, these are good. I wonder if my employer knows I watch your streams all day. Probably from the excessive data usage. I want to use my old Philips speakers for a test and I don't want to blow my car radio. For a quick test you should be alright. Just not prolonged use I wouldn't recommend. Come on. So much solder on this pad, it just keeps falling through. There we go. One last one on here. Then we can drop these ones in. Where's the other one gone? Here it is. Lewis wants you to make that amp more powerful. Can you do that? No, not really. I'm going to do a video on that at some point. You can't really make an amplifier more powerful. It's not really worth the money trying to do that. Honestly, it's really not worth the money trying to make an amplifier more powerful. You're better off selling it. I've got a load of blown ones in my drawer. Better off just selling it and buying a more powerful amplifier in the first place. Alright guys, I need to be right back because my food is ready. So I'm going to leave. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop streaming just for about a few minutes, and I shall come back in about 15 minutes time and get this up and working. So I shall see you in a few minutes.